Yeah, that's why I said. Car wash. Yeah. Yeah, because I just forgot to let you know. Yeah, because I fly his airplane. Flying his airplane. No, I'm not. I got it. I'm tired of clips.
Oh.
I'm tired of clips.
Let me tell you something. I think that's the hard, this guy, have you seen his side? He does it by himself.
So do I.
Oh,
But
but
his
his,
mic was Brian said.
yeah, but his are wood.
I got
Yeah. Yeah, you got the same ones I have, the fiberglass, yeah. I mean, you know.
Yeah, driving that fence, the whole thing,
And I put a lot on his sign. Man, I'm gonna tell you, this sign is spot on.
You got nothing else to do. I gotta work for a living. I gotta work for a living. You know. I just want to tell you, so.
No, I mean, can you talk to him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you can listen.
Yeah, let me call him.
Okay.
You know? You call me.
Yeah, I got it. Sure. Right now?
Sit on the steering committee. Law enforcement, police and fire, Gil Green and, insurance carrier.
I read it.
Just grab that.
Yeah, I'll see that.
You want to stop? Just like everyone else. Yeah, you sit down there, but you want one of these chairs? You're comfortable. You want me to You got everything set up now.
Then even if I it's like you can like it. But, you know, I guess it works off of that thing, but I don't like it. So I may have to use it if I can't find my place. Yeah. And the other one, I think I might yeah, then you gotta plug in and like, you gotta plug it I can, at times it's a little scary, but I'm waiting for another internet provider to open. But I got like, just to keep down, I checked that was just Some of the stuff is just, it doesn't, like, okay, you're sitting, it's like, just try to be as careful as you can. Yeah. You were in the house, but the department were still. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, to say something. I have it written down in my office. I don't know. They're not much of that.
You got a 3 years. Of course you do. It's so small. Okay, so I was done with the bring a sign over, and I thought I had yours.
No, you don't. No, here.
Your mom doesn't.
They'll do that, but if not, I can always put it in a place where it's.
You know, it's okay. I understand. Some people don't know this, and that's perfectly okay.
I'll ask her.
Ask me, I don't want to just pop a sign over. You see the sign first.
Sorry, yeah, it was fine.
Oh, I got one sign. Are you
Sure. I know. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Awesome.
Yeah, ladies, within this program. Yeah, I should ask her.
Ask, yeah, she should be on that. She might be.
No power.
I know you don't.
Hey, Bob's the fireman.
But at least, she knows that, that's like, things
Call to order, regular board meeting
September 22nd, 2020 at 7 p.m. Please rise for the allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Supervisor Echebetti.
Here.
Treasurer Pop.
Here.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Joseph.
Here.
Trustee Domingue.
Here.
Trustee Bosper. Here. Clerk Barry is here.
All members are present and for presentations are formal presentations to the nominees. Item number 5, department reports. I do have a couple real quick comments myself. A couple road projects to update John. One is M19 is complete with the asphalt cap. It was a little scary there for a couple of weeks when the joints were fixed and the cap wasn't on. That piece is done and it is fantastic. You're going to see some work on Gratiot between 23 and 24 mile for another couple of weeks, which is causing traffic backups and impeding our motorists. And that's an MDOT project. Sugar Bush Road, you'll see a little bit more work going on out there. I have had a ton of calls on signage and on the barrels. The last piece of that puzzle is the veterans facility entrance. So I ask you for patience there. And road work is dangerous. It's very dangerous work. And the Macomb County family had a very tragic incident yesterday. The Macomb County Department of Roads lost a public servant, a young road worker from Chesterfield Township, 26-year-old man. I know the family very well, all my life. On I-94 and 9 Mile. It's a tragedy that near and dear to my heart. These road projects and these construction workers put their life on the line trying to be public servants and help. So I ask you all to keep the Morissette family in your thoughts and prayers. And just give those road workers a break. I really want to say that. I've known that family for a long time. That business is near and dear to my heart. I know we're frustrated out there when there's construction projects. But those workers they gotta be mercy. So that's my only point of comments. Trustee Domingue.
I have a few, Mr. Supervisor. This is from Parks and Rec. This Friday, September 25th, from 6 to 7:30 p.m., bundle up and join us for an outdoor concert featuring Sonic Freeway playing the hottest dance hits from the 60s through today. Bring your lawn chairs, face masks, and hand sanitizer and snacks. This is a free community concert that will be held out front of the township municipal offices. Come relax, take in the fall colors, and enjoy the crisp fall air. Plenty of room for physical distance and welcome to cooler weather. Next thing is Save Bats, build bat houses. Eagle Scout candidate Zachary Graves came up with the perfect way to protect our park from pesky flying insects while helping these mammals find a safe place to live. Zach built bat houses, and his family, mentors, friends, and fellow Eagle Scouts teamed up to help him mount the habitats inside Brandenburg Park. Zachary demonstrated maturity in service and leadership in this undertaking of this Eagle Scout service project. Let his efforts propel him to the highest attainable rank in the Scouts program. Zachary is well on his way to be among the 4% of Scouts who earn the prestigious honor of Eagle Scout. We're looking forward to seeing the medal and badge he is awarded for his accomplishment. Thank you for choosing Chesterfield Township Brandenburg Park as your project assistant. You have made your community proud. And lastly, the Chesterfield Township Senior Center is closed and will remain closed in accordance with all executive orders. Engage with us through our Facebook pages at Chesterfield Township Parks and Rec and or Chesterfield Township Senior Center. Thank you.
Trustee Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just a brief update for the board and the public regarding the Selfridge Macomb partnership as it relates to the sustainability study that was started last year. The committee has broken into work groups. As a member of the technical work group, we had our second meeting last week. Of course, these are all virtual at this point. But the second meeting last week, we are about halfway through what has been laid out as our final objectives. And the technical support group is looking at a number of things, primarily first being the base footprint, laying out what they call clear zones or APZ zones. Those are typically the zones that military and just airports in general indicate that if there's a problem that typically occurs on takeoff and landing, so they've designated some areas near the runway as what are called APZ zones. Unfortunately, as we've talked about in the past, a couple of those fall on the south end of our township in a development area that we would like to see move forward. So the compatibility study, it looks to identify all challenges, that being one of them. We have roughly 2 more meetings scheduled before the final draft in March, but the meeting upcoming will be to talk about some of the recommendations that we have put forward regarding how does Chesterfield continue to enhance our revenue streams without negatively impacting base operations. I don't think that the F-35 has been completely abandoned. There still is some interest in trying to secure foothold for the F-35 here in Macomb County. But in order to really put ourselves in the greatest possible position to be considered, the sustainability study needs to be completed. So it continues to move forward, and I will update the board of any significant developments should they come in. But right now, we're just exploring some of the challenges associated with the base. The other issue that I'd like to bring to the board's attention is that we continue to move forward on the master plan, which has a couple more presentations in front of the Planning Commission before it reaches the full board consideration. I suspect that we will, as this board, we will probably not be voting to ratify the final master plan, at least under our current tenure. The requirement for the master plan involves a time frame of a 60-day submission to neighboring communities to contribute everything that they may have to add. But we should get very close to the end of the completion of the master plan process here in the next month and a half. So before we complete our terms in November, we will have a draft before us for consideration. That's all. Thank you.
Clear Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. An update from the Elections Department. Absentee ballots are scheduled to be mailed on Monday, September the 28th. Inside your absentee ballot envelope, you will find a small note in there letting you know that you may now track your ballot from the time it leaves the clerk's office until it goes to the post office and to the voter and then back again. So that is new software that we have implemented. It's called Ballot Scout, and it is an enhanced opportunity for voters to track their ballot from start to finish. So you'll know exactly where your ballot is on its way from our office or on its way back to our office. There will also be a link and a button available on the website under the Elections tab that will also allow you to link directly to that application. In addition, I'd just like to bring to the public's attention that we've had several calls regarding some confusion about absentee voting versus mail-in voting. And just like to provide some clarification there. Absentee ballots, voting an absentee ballot, whether you choose to have it mailed to you or you choose to come in and pick it up at the office or vote it here, it's all the same ballot. It goes through the same process. It is provided to the voter in the same way. The only difference is that in one case it is mailed, and in the other case the voter comes into the office and votes it here in the office. So there is some confusion with regards to the Secretary of State and other interest groups who are trying to make a distinction between the two, and there is none. The process in our office is the same. The only difference is where you vote that ballot, so or whether you have it mailed to you or whether you pick it up here in the office. So there is no difference. All voters are now eligible to request an absentee ballot without any reason, so therefore you can come in and request an absentee ballot at any time. Those are available in our office on the 24th. We are prepping those now, so if you would like to come in, receive an absentee ballot, you can certainly do that through our office or request it to be mailed to you, and in that case, the first batch goes out on the 28th of September. Also, we would like the public to be aware that we are not mailing any ballots or any absentee ballot applications that are not requested. There are several interest groups, the major political parties. Also, I believe the post office might have mailed confusing postcards saying you can vote by mail and so forth. The Chesterfield Clerk's Office is not mailing anything that is unsolicited to you. So if you are receiving those materials, they are coming from outside groups, not this office. However, you may use those absentee ballot applications to submit, to request a ballot from us, but those applications do not come from our office unless they are requested by the voter. So I'd just like to make sure that those clarifications are made. If there are any questions about any of those processes or anything that you see in the media or on social media that concerns you, please always know you can call our office and anyone else will be able to help.
Any further department reports or department heads? Seeing no further department reports, we'll move on to item 6, which is the consent agenda.
All items under the consent agenda are considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items. If discussion of any item is required by a board member, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Public comments on the consent agenda items are permitted. 6A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of September 8th, 2020. 6B, approval of the agenda with addendum if necessary. Item 6C, approval of the payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department. And item 6D, approve a recommendation by the Department of Public Safety to pay an invoice from Apollo Fire Apparatus Repair in the amount of $13,100 from GL number 205-336-863-000.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Clerk Barry. Support. Support by Trustee Domingue. Discussion. Comments from the public on the consent agenda. Motion by Clerk Barry, support by Trustee Domingue to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Oh, we got a public comment.
First name's John, last name's Speaka. I'm going to ask the board members if they could please pull out their pamphlet of bills. There's a couple questions that I have regarding some items on the bills. You guys have your packets, or? Okay, on page 2 of 4. I'm sorry. On page 1 of 4. If you could explain what some of these charges are and why the taxpayer is flipping the bill, I'd appreciate it. I've got a charge listed on there from L. Charles. It says an employee dinner on election day for $119.96. Right underneath that, I've got Father and Son's Pizza for $65.67. Underneath that, I've got Kroger's Bagels and Donuts for elections, $127.51. If you go a little bit further down in the same column, if you follow where I'm going, I've got a Kroger. I have 2 items from Kroger for beverages and snacks for elections. One's $139.32, and then the other one is $84.56. So I guess my question is, getting back to the original statement, our author of the ethics policy, Cindy Berry, again, has violated Chesterfield Township's purchasing policy. How ethical is it to waste taxpayers' money in the amount of $537.02? I'm asking the clerk to pay back out of her own personal funds the $537.02, or resign. I've had enough of these shenanigans as a candidate running for office and as a resident of this township. I've had enough. I've had enough of her wasting hard-earned tax dollars. Our township is suffering. We have people that can't pay their mortgages, water bills, and put food on the table. We have residents that are suffering every day in this township. Our attorney, Mr. Siebert, in July of 2020, this year, and I'm sure you guys all got the memo, and Cindy, you were CC'd on the memo, Mr. Siebert in July issued his own legal opinion to this board on the food purchasing policy. His opinion was that it's in violation of Chesterfield Township's purchasing policy. Did all of the board members get the memo that Mr. Siebert sent out? I'm going to assume you did. I know Clerk Berry got it because she was CC'd on it. How many times do we have to go over this? It's wrong, it's unethical, and it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. Supervisor Accavetti, I hold you responsible. You're in charge of everyday operations in this township and enforcing policies. We don't have a superintendent, so you're the guy. All enforcement of policies is the responsibility of the supervisor. Supervisor Accavetti won't say anything to Clerk Berry because, again, she's that fourth vote.
Point of information, the question was about the bills. This is beyond the scope of the bills.
It's not beyond the scope. It's all relevant to what I'm tying this into.
So
you can try to...
This is a technical question.
It's
There's a
all
technical
tied
answer.
in.
Please. Trustee Foster, your question.
I think the question should be answered, addressed about the spending. I think the rest is not germane to the spending of this. Thank you.
Again, she's the
Wrap
fourth...
up, your time's running out, so wrap up.
Oh, I have a time limit on this? Isn't this the open?
Just continue, please.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. This is why she's the fourth vote. In order to get anything passed in this township board, you need 4 votes. This is why Supervisor Accavetti wants his rubber stamp Elliott in the treasurer's office.
This is
Does
not
anyone
relevant. This is
believe for a
campaign.
minute
Keep it on.
this is
campaign.
relevant to
On the agenda item only, please. And yes, there's 5 minutes per agenda item.
Okay, how many times have I been interrupted?
Just make
Here's
your,
another, she's residents.
make your comments based on the agenda item.
I am based on that. Again, I just wanted to point out, $537.02 was wasted of taxpayers' money.
Thank you.
But no, I'm not done. I have other questions
You
regarding.
got about 45 seconds left.
On page... On page 2 of 4, I'm sorry, 3 of 4, on Weber Paddle Park, there's a plaque that we paid $219.50 for. Can you tell me that fund, 92815, can you tell me exactly where that money came out of and why we used that fund to pay that money? And again, we've got legal counsel here telling us that we cannot use taxpayers' money to pay for food. If you don't like the policy, Clerk Berry, then change the policy. Quit violating the policy. You've constantly done it for 8 years, and I'm tired of it. Enough's enough.
On the agenda
It's
item.
not going to fly.
Thank you, sir. Any further public comment? Any further public comment? Back up to the board for approval of the consent agenda. We have a motion by Clerk Berry, support by Trustee May. Trustee Joseph.
Mr. Supervisor, could we address a couple of these? I don't know how we do it. I mean, is the procedural to pull the bill portion of the consent agenda so that the board can weigh in? Typically, the board is not allowed to weigh in on any consent agenda item, and I'd like to address a couple
If
of
the
those.
board would like to address this, we need an amended motion, an amended support to approve the consent agenda and pull out whatever you want to try to pull out.
So the board policy has been no separate discussion on any item unless a board member requests it. I'd like to request the removal of the payment of bills. I have a quick response to that issue that I would like to address, and I don't think our current format allows it unless that portion is pulled, so if I may.
You're asking the motion maker for a friendly amendment to approve the consent agenda minus item C.
If that's an approved way, then that's,
Right.
yes, okay, that's what I would like.
The other way you could do it is with an addendum.
It's not that bad, it's just
Clerk Berry.
I'd be happy to accommodate.
Thank you.
Continue support?
I'm fine.
Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, and D by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Dumaine. Clerk Berry, please call the roll.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Domingue.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Bosford. Aye. Treasurer LaFave.
Aye.
Supervisor Aguilar.
Aye. The partial consent agenda is approved. Item 6C, do I have a motion to approve the payment of bills?
I'll second that.
Motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by Clerk Berry. Discussion.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I made the motion to approve the bill run. There are a number of vendors in that bill run who that's the only mechanism for them to be paid is the approval. Is the approval? Oh, it's not microphone on.
It is, speak a little closer to it.
Okay, thank you. The motion to approve the bill run is the only mechanism for all of the vendors who do the work in the township to get paid. The issue of food and food for employees has come up on a couple of occasions. We've asked for a legal opinion. The legal opinion is that it is not to be provided. I have no real mechanism for doing anything about it. It is a bill that shows up, and again, we've gone over it a few times. To me, there's not really much that can be done except withhold these things. Treasurer LaFave has weighed in on it. It seems to be a practice of neighboring communities, I think is what we were advised by the clerk's office, and therefore deemed allowable. I really don't have anything other than that to say about my approval of the bill run, except that there are a number of other vendors in that bill run. So again, I share some of the concerns. I don't know why we keep paying for food, but that is our practice, and that's all I can tell you.
Treasurer.
Well, I think there was a question asked by Mr. Speaker, why it's being allowed. There isn't question the fact that there is a violation of our current purchasing policy. I don't know why we violate the purchasing policy, which is not ethical, when it can be just as easily amended if that's what the board wants. But it seems like we just seem to ignore certain irregular activities that aren't consistent with our process and procedures. I personally don't understand why, Mr. Speaker, but it seems to be a regular occurrence. It could be fixed by the offender. There was plenty of time between the primary and to do some changes or ask for an amendment to purchasing policy as directed by our legal counsel, but it doesn't seem to be important enough for that to happen. To me, it's just a prime example of what happened to the ordinance that wasn't obeyed last week as far as political signs. I can't help you. It's a matter of what the board wants to do, and it seems like the board wants to approve something that's not approved by the purchasing policy. Not much I can do to break it.
Any further comments from the board? The Weber plaque is being paid for through the DNR Trust Fund grant, and it is a requirement of the project. Do any other motions or Clerk Berry?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just to restate, and as Trustee Joseph indicated, we've discussed this several times, that the expenses that are in the bill run are typical and customary. Every clerk in every community in the state of Michigan does the same thing. The state of Michigan allows it. They even allow for a reimbursable line. The state of Michigan reimburses all clerks for those expenses. And I can certainly understand that someone who is not a clerk, who does not run elections, might have a difficult time understanding that and why it is provided. I'd be happy to take that time separately from this to discuss that with anyone who would like to, and we can go over why those issues occur and why we provide food and beverages for election workers, particularly the AD County Board, who is sequestered for the entire day, and so on. So there's a number of reasons why, from an operational perspective, we do that. And again, perhaps a change needs to be made to our purchasing policy to accommodate that. And I would be very happy to do that, and I have no problem doing that. My apologies for any perceived violations that there are. They're certainly not our intention, but this has been a regular and customary charge and expenditure for every election that I have ever been here for, that before me, in fact. And of course, throughout the state of Michigan, but there's a reason why for that. So the state agrees with us, and that's why they reimburse us for those expenses for reimbursable elections.
Motion by trustee Joseph, support by clerk Berry to approve item 6C. Clerk Berry, please call the roll.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Domingue.
Aye.
Trustee Bosper.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFava.
Aye.
Supervisor Everett.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 7 is the regular agenda. Item 7A.
Item 7A is to approve the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 183, amending the Chesterfield Township sign ordinance, sections 52-1 through 52-11 of the Chesterfield Township Code of Ordinances, to provide for pedestrian and vehicular safety, prohibiting specified types of signs, providing for provisions regarding sign area, illumination, location standards, permanent signs, temporary signs, and non-conforming signs, and repealing any and all ordinances and/or resolutions in conflict therewith.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve and adopt ordinance number 183 as stated.
Support.
Motion by clerk Berry, support by trustee Joseph. Discussion. Director Palin is here. And this was, Rod with Giffords was here last weekend and gave a presentation. If you want to give a quick update, you can, or we can go to some questions.
Yep, like I said, the last meeting was here for introduction, first publication. Now we're here for the second reading and adoption. We got the presentation. There hasn't been any changes, so if anyone has any questions, I can answer them.
Questions from the board? Comments from the public? You got one coming up.
First name John, last name Speaka. First name is John, last name Speaka. In reference to the sign provision, and 2 weeks ago when we met, Clerk Berry made it sound like we had a 60-day sign ordinance in effect where you could put your signs up. Again, here's another clear violation by a clerk. It's a 45-day period before you can put your signs up, and her signs were up way before the 45-day. So not only do we have a violation with the food purchasing, now we have a violation with the signs. It's a continuous pattern that we have with certain individuals on this board, and I'm really tired of it. I just wanted to comment on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the public? Seeing no further public comments, I'll bring it back up to the board. Motion by Clerk Berry, support by trustee Joseph to approve item 7A as submitted. Clerk Berry, please call the roll.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Domingue.
Aye.
Trustee Bosper.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFava.
Aye.
Supervisor Everett.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Director Palin. Item 7B.
Item 7B is to approve a recommendation by the Department of Public Safety to adopt resolution number 2020-32, the Macomb County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Do I, motion by trustee Moody,
Second?
support by clerk Perry. Chief.
Good evening. Just wanted to bring before you and seek support from the board for this resolution for the Macomb County Hazard Mitigation Plan. This plan, written by the Office of Emergency Management, Macomb County, you could almost conceive this as being the high-level umbrella protection plan for disasters in Macomb County. They reach out to all communities in Macomb County that are covered under this plan for their endorsement and support of it. You could think about this as like the 10,000-foot level of how we deal with a disaster. Below that is our Chesterfield Township Emergency Operations Plan, which is also authored by the Macomb County Office of Emergency Management. And then at the ground level, we have our own Chesterfield Township Emergency Coordination Plan, which addresses for our folks in the township how we would act during an emergency situation.
Questions for Chief Moody? Treasurer Bob.
Thank you. I'm going through this, is quite a few pages. I was more interested in Chesterfield Township. Going through this, I'm always interested in mitigating risk.
Yes.
And what it does is it has a section in here of priorities, which says our township supervisor is responsible. And for everyone, like priority one, there's a cost for priority one. To mitigate flooding of canal south of Field Street, section 32. And there's an estimated cost of $2.5 million. There's quite a few of these, lots of money. After going all through these and looking at the litigation, which would be really great because it would help, the issues for flooding, there's like a disclaimer saying the funds might not be available. It's kind of, after reading all this, it's kind of disheartening saying that we're doing all this and then the end result is nothing might happen, which is to me kind of sad.
Sure, I completely understand. And if I might, that this has also been endorsed by FEMA at the federal level. And the thing that they would look for in the plan is should an event ever happen, such as significant flooding or something like that, if we have these components in the plan, it might help us to be able to recover funds either from state or federal disaster funds.
Also, I'm looking at the hazard mitigation plan, and actually states that Selfridge Air Force Base is the primary nuclear target, which doesn't give me a more fuzzy feeling either. So I just thought I'd bring it to everybody's attention that we have a target in our backyard. So, thank you.
Trustee Vosper.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Through the supervisors and chief, part of why things are listed in plans like this, even though there's not funding for them, isn't that also, you said part of it for FEMA, perhaps we could get help should the occasion arise, but isn't it also, should grants become available for mitigation, that because it's in our plan, we have it already in there, we can cite that to apply for grants?
Absolutely.
Is there a reason why we do that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further comments from the board? I'm very impressed with the plan. It does need to be updated in 4 years, as I understand it. We have it on file now. This will be an updated version. Out of the 312 pages, a lot of stuff stuck out. And yes, there's a lot of big price tags on it. But one that stuck out that I think was misnumbered on there, and that's the I-94 to 23 Mile Road interchange from a traffic accident safety standpoint. And the fact that that's on the list, we all know it should be on the list. If we extended that from Gratiot to Donner, I would make the argument that that's number one. The fact that that's on the list might get us the $100 million to get an interchange there. In the next 10 years, that comes through MDOT. So kind of a technicality to enforce this, but a lot of work went into nailing those specific risk areas. And I recommend its approval.
Thank you. Keep that on the radar. Thank you.
Any follow-up from Trustee Glassman?
Just Does the motion include any errata, like you referred to, that it looked like it was misprinted, perhaps?
No, that was just my off-the-cuff comments.
Oh, I see.
Of how MDOT did, how they gather traffic crash data from a single intersection. They took like 4 or 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Any further comments from the board? Questions from the public on the 312-page document and the resolution that we will be adopting, 2020-32? Seeing no comments from the public and no further comments from the board, we have a motion by Trustee Domingue, I believe, supported by Clerk Berry, to approve item 7B as submitted. Clerk Berry, please call the roll.
Trustee Domingue.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Foster.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFatta.
Aye.
Supervisor Aguirre.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Chair. Item 7C.
Item 7C is to approve a recommendation from the Department of Public Safety to purchase a heavy rescue truck from SBI Trucks in the amount of $478,250 from GL number 205340986-000.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Trustee Plasko.
Support.
Supported by Trustee Joseph. Discussion, Director Christian, kick us off.
So some background on this request for purchase. What we've done is we've remodified our fleet over the past few years. We've entered into the technical aspects of the fire service and rescue and technical services side. And what we found we needed, because of the equipment that we had throughout the building, was we needed a special vehicle to haul that equipment. What you see here in front of you is the original request that we included in our capital plan 2 years ago when we began to research this. This style of truck is basically a toolbox, mobile toolbox, as Chief Miller had pointed out when he first came here. We set a budget for this purchase. It was $500,000, and we spent the last year researching, seeking bids. We put requests for proposals out on Mitten, and we spent the last year refining it. What we found out was this truck was too expensive for us. Prices came in $525,000, $530,000. So during that process, we sat back, we as a group, and rethought where we wanted to be. This vehicle that you see in front of you, although it will not be green, or it will be red, it'll fit the color that we have for our trucks. This is the vehicle that we're looking for. It'll be slightly bigger than what you see here, but this came in well under our budgeted amount. Again, I'll go back. The purpose of this truck is to haul technical equipment, firefighting gear that you don't normally place on an engine or a response engine. And this will be a specialty vehicle. You'll see that it has a light tower affixed to the top of it. It's got extra sized compartments for our rescue, our trench rescue gear, our airbags, things that we will need, specialty items at a call for service. Again, it came under budget. We did put a contingent amount in our request just in case there were some items that we left out. I think we covered the process pretty thoroughly, vetted them pretty well, and we're here tonight to make this request for purchase. Just a point of note too, if you approve this tonight, this truck will take about 450 days to build before we take delivery of it. And that's common throughout the vendors that we did speak with.
Questions from the board for Director? Trustee Joseph.
I'm sorry, just a real quick one. I was looking in my packet. Obviously, there's a number of ways to configure the truck with the tools. So the truck being the toolbox. What are some of the common items that would be part of that sort of rolling toolbox? What are the things that that truck is equipped with, and what are standard equipped tools, and what are tailor-made to our township needs type things? And what do you see the total cost after outfitting the truck with the tools that you need, Chief?
Well, right now, what we picture for this vehicle is we have stuff scattered throughout. We have a small trailer that has confined space rescue equipment. We have bags of hazardous materials response equipment in the stations that the crews would have to run and grab and put on the truck before they go. The goal with this is to bring all that together. So the idea would be that one or perhaps two firefighters, when called, could get onto that vehicle. We have everything consolidated. Our jaws of life would be placed on there. Equipment for vehicle stabilization, that is, if a car comes off its wheels, that we can secure it in place with raker struts. All of our dive rescue equipment for water rescue and that sort of thing. Not only do we cover our waters along our border, but also any ponds and bodies of water, even so much as a swimming pool or something like that. All that stuff will be concentrated on this one specialty response vehicle that would also become more or less a jewel for Chesterfield when we work with our neighboring departments. For example, Shelby Township, Sterling Heights, they all have specialty vehicles like this. And all of our communities come together with special teams for chemical spills, building collapse, and different things like that. We need now be able to become a good neighbor and work with our neighboring teams or something like that.
The reason I asked, and I think you answered it perfectly, having attended a number of the open houses and getting a chance to see firefighters, work with different scenarios, and they put on demonstrations for the public, specifically Jaws of Life. That's an art as well, having to know all of the sort of tactical points of where you can, sometimes it's just, you just go at it, but there are certain models of vehicles and trucks that I know our firefighters and officers get familiar with, because if they have to extract somebody from a wreck, knowing the properly engineered points to get in most quickly, and seeing the training under your leadership, Director Kirsten, where we go to a more specialized rescue operation, not only in confined space, vehicle accidents. I know this is something that the department, the Public Safety Department, and Chief Millian prided himself on in becoming experts in a number of these areas. It requires additional training, and then once you have the training, you have to give the trained staff the equipment, and this is another piece of the puzzle. It's been a multi-year plan, and I'm really proud of the department and the way that we continue to train our people to be able to handle very unique situations, and as you indicated, become the go-to community in our county for specialized rescue. These things don't happen very often, and it's cost prohibitive for every community to have that kind of investment. We get back our investment on mutual aid runs from other departments, and this is our contribution to our community, as well as helping out our neighbors. It's just another great addition and a very well thought out and well planned expenditure. It's been in the works for years, so great work on this, both Director Kirsten and Chief Miller. Thank you.
Any further comments from the board? Quick one from me. This is very satisfying in that we're wrapping up about 4 years of every major piece of equipment we have. Started with two of our big fire station replacements in 17. These are the 20, 30-year assets. Refurbishing the aerial trucks, working on the other trucks. It's the last major purchase, and it's the last piece of the puzzle. I'm glad that it was part of our capital improvement plans every year. This was an expected expenditure. It was approved in 2021 and 2022, which is when the bulk of this expense will take place. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And another component to it is we still have 2 reserve trucks that are on the market for sale that we'll bring some capital back with those.
That was going to be my next question, about for you to point out that the 2 pretty substantial trucks that will be offloaded to right-size the equipment needs and bring in a substantial amount of capital. Coupled with the finishing of the fire station, we have clearly updated all of our equipment. These are 20, 30-year assets. It's the last piece of the puzzle, and thank you. Any further comments from the board or comments from the public? Motion by Trustee Vosberg, support by Trustee Joseph to approve item 7C as submitted. Clerk Barry, please call the roll.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Deming.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFave.
Aye.
Supervisor Acovetti.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 7D.
Item 7D is to approve a recommendation by Public Works to award the construction of the 23-mile road emergency water main repair at Fish Creek, project 1022-2020, to the lowest possible responsible bidder, Pamar Enterprises, at a cost of $270,799. Public Works is also recommending the approval of the total project cost of $349,819 from GL number 591000150.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve as stated.
Motion by Clerk Berry,
Support.
support by Trustee Vosper. Director Cottington.
Good evening. We came to you guys earlier in the year. This is our biggest water main on 23 Mile Road on the north side of the road, and it broke right underneath the Fish Creek. We had no ability to fix it, nor did it make any sense to fix it, try to fix it underneath the county drain, so we simply temporarily capped it off on each side of the creek and rethought this out, got engineering involved, and had to redesign it, figure out a way how to get a new pipe underneath the creek and hook it back together. So this is our main artery that is severed. We were able to get 5 bids, which we were very happy about. They were all pre-qualified contractors that are work underneath the township, and we're very satisfied with the price. It came in a little bit under budget, so we were happy with that. And with that, we'd like to get your guys' blessing and get this fixed and get that water main back open and get the loop back open. Thank you.
Questions from the board? Trustee Joseph.
Could you explain the temporary fix that we have right now, Mr. Cottington? So it's capped on each side, but it is a main artery. How do we have water flowing there now?
Well, we have other loops like 24 Mile Road, Cotton Road, Donna Road, but that is our main artery. So it is severed. There's a break in it right now.
So that is we're just taking advantage of like temporary redundancies in the system, but that is kind of risky to go much longer. I mean, we definitely we can't utilize the redundancies. Those are in case of emergency, which we are in. Fair statement?
Yes, absolutely.
And then, Mr. Supervisor, just a quick question for you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. I know your family has a relationship to Paymar. There is no personal interest or holdings of any type.
I'll be making a comment.
Appreciate that. Thank you. No further questions.
Any further comments from the board? Clerk Berry.
Director Cottington, any idea on the timeline for project completion, and will it be necessary to have any traffic disruptions right there on 23? I live right there, as you know, at 23 and Sass, right where that's at, and it tends to get a little dicey there traffic-wise, so just kind of curious in terms of what the timeline is for completion of the repair and what sort of traffic interruptions or road interruptions we may see there due to that.
The majority of the repair will be done well before winter. We hope to have this main back in service within 6 weeks. Most of the work will be done on the right-of-way, on the green belt of the right-of-way off the road. There may be occasions where we have to go and take one lane, and if so, we'll only do that on a temporary basis, like during the day, and move everything back off overnight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments from the board? Hold that 1 second. One from me. I'm going to have a request from the board. I have conferred with the township attorney. Pursuant to section 11 of our board rules, I ask for an excuse from the board to abstain from voting on this award due to the potential of an appearance of a conflict of interest. Although I have zero ownership and zero direct involvement with Pamar Enterprises, that company was founded by my mother and father and is partially owned by a sibling of mine. So at this point, our board rules do request, and it has to be unanimous, approval for me to abstain from this item. I would ask for that.
Mr. Supervisor, I would make a motion to excuse Supervisor Acovetti from the vote on this item.
Second.
Motion by Clerk Berry, support by Trustee Domingue.
Discussion offered on the motion.
I do believe there is.
Mr. Supervisor, my question is to you. I was under the impression there was no family connection to Paymar. Did I understand you correctly to say that you have a sibling who is a partial owner of the company now?
That's correct. And the firm was founded by my mother and father, PA, and
Sure, yeah.
and they are married.
Oh, okay.
There's a little bit of that. And it's important to note potential of an appearance of a conflict of interest, and that's what I am attempting to disclose. And I think it is prudent with my history with Bedford. It's really up. Any further comments from the board on the?
I'm sorry, I just had a follow-up.
Okay.
Mr. Coddington indicated that the
Only on the.
It does relate to this in terms of the pre-certification of all of the bidders on this contract. Is there any concern about the inclusion of a predetermined vendor who is a relative? So I guess what I'm asking you is I respect and appreciate your withholding vote and abstaining from the vote, but the process involving, like it brings the bidder all the way to the board, should that vendor be removed as a potential? I guess that's the
So I would leave that up to, again, when I was involved with this company, and I have not been involved since 2012, any decision-making or any financial piece of this company I haven't done at all. However, from 1975, when I was about 4 until 2012, and I'll let Director Coddington speak, hundreds of miles of water and hundreds of miles of sewer, tons and tons of work here. So when I did come in the door, I had this discussion about contracts and do you see an issue here? I don't see it. There's no issue here from my perspective. Frankly, I don't need to recuse myself with conversations with the attorney. However, I think it is prudent to disclose that. I'm very proud of my work with that company. I'm very proud with the name being after my mother and father. With my history there, I think it's just important for me to distance myself because that was my life until 2012 was that business. Director Coddington, I don't know if you want to speak to the pre-qualified contractor lists we have and related to MDOT and basically how the contract essentially solves all these problems.
Yeah, are you asking me how the procedure, can we take a vote on the motion, which is on the table first, which is your motion to recuse?
Yes,
And then go into the, because I have some follow-up questions from Mr. Coddington on the issue you just raised. But as to the motion to
There is a motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Domingue to approve, or no, to recuse Supervisor Acovetti from voting on item 7D. Clerk Berry, please call roll.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Domingue.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
No.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Gosper. Aye. Treasurer LaFatta.
Aye.
Supervisor Acovetti.
Aye. The motion fails. Moving on to item 7D. Any comments for Director Coddington?
I would just like to follow up on the question. So I respect the position that you raised, and the abstaining from the vote is a clear indication that what the attempt, as I interpret it as, is to remove any debt. Whether or not there is or isn't a conflict, the supervisor's decision is to rule in the idea of any appearance, and I applaud that. But I know how strongly you feel about this particular company. This is your family's life work. This company, as you pointed out, takes the name of your parents, and you have a sibling that is currently working there. What I'm concerned about is all of the individuals who report to you, are aware of the Paymar connection to the supervisor. Does that lend itself to an unfair bid process? So I would appreciate the weighing in of the department head on this issue. in terms of the relationship to the township and Pima.
Very well. Let me first say that all the bidders, they came in with sealed bids to the clerk's office, which is the normal operation of every big project over $20,000. Paymar has been doing work in this township for longer than I've been here. And they have been emergency contractors to help out with emergencies in the past and such, well before Dan sat on the board. They're well respected. The qualification to become pre-qualified has to do with your ratings on how much work you do previously, how your record is with MIOSHA, and if they have any outstanding lawsuits. And that's how they get pre-qualified in the township.
Thank you.
Any further comments on the board? Treasurer of
The only thing I'd be concerned with is if there was a project overrun and how it would be treated, that would be a concern. Seems like there's a lot of projects and there's been called approved change orders, and they seem to readily, be approved without some kind of responsibility as to why. And that would be one of my concerns, being so close to one of the full-time elected officials passed.
There,
And I would assume that it wouldn't be treated any differently, but I would never be sure.
fair enough question. There is a contingency built into the plan. I hope we don't have to use it. I hope it goes smooth, and I hope we come under a little under if possible.
Trustee Dwayne.
With regards to PMR Enterprises, because of my upbringing through my father being the water superintendent, gone for 32 years, PMR was doing work for this township back in the 80s. Long-time company. Mr. Pat Activity Sr., my father, were very good friends. And from my upbringing and being around here and being around the township and stuff like that, I can attest to it's a very well-run company from back in the days. They've always done work for the township back from when I was a little guy. And I don't feel there's any type of inference in the fact that Mr. Activity, I know there's a sibling, but there's also another major owner of the company, correct, sir?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'll comment again at the end. Treasurer,
Based on Director Coddington's plan on not using contingency, I feel a lot better about this, so kind of hold you to it.
Thank you.
thank you. I am, and I totally respect Trustee Anderson's vote. I have no issue voting on this. I have no direct involvement with this company. I have just as much involvement with this company as a lot of the other companies on the list. And when you're in this business, sewer, water, road building business, it's for the amount of time that our family has been in it. You have relationships with virtually every vendor and every contractor out there. When I was in the state legislature, there were tons of Michigan Department of Transportation jobs that had a similar type of situation on. Zero direct involvement. Zero, the bid process is the bid process. There's state law that lays out what the bid is and what a differing site condition is. And I have every confidence in the department and every confidence in this firm and frankly the other firms below. But the integrity of the competitive bid process shows that Hammer is located like they have been multiple times in the past. And I wanted to disclose that. Very comfortable with voting on it as well. Comments from the public before we bring it up for a vote?
Joe Kadich, live on 7. I have no problem with this project. My only concern is for the last 4 years, basically, we've been told that the water main along 23 Mile, both of them had to be replaced. And I presume this is part of it. Has any of the rest of it been replaced? Early in the year when you formed your project detail and your budget, you said there was money in there to do that. I've not seen any construction or anything going on. Has anything been done with the rest of the water main? If not, should that not be part of this whole project?
We'll answer that. The director will answer that when you're done. Any further comments from the public?
John, speak up. Mr. Acrobati, if I understand what you said correctly, I just want a clarification on it. You have absolutely no ownership or any stake in Palmer at all. You get no money from the company, is that correct? Thank you.
Any further comments from the public? Director Cotton, on the coordination of the 23-mile road Phase 1 project and this emergency project.
To answer Mr. Kadich's question, we do have the south side of 23 Mile Road design. We are still gaining easements. We want to build that as soon as we can. That one's still in the process. We need a few more easements and we want to get it out for bid. As far as this repair, we will have a valve on each side. So this will be a brand new pipe going under this county creek. It'll be a brand new pipe that'll be there for at least another 50 to 75 years. And if we do any work, which we are going to add valves on the line on the north side, that is going to be another project. But this will be new and stay in place that they can hook to with the new one going forward. I hope that answers a little bit for you. It'll be a permanent repair.
Any further comments from the board? Motion by Clerk Perry, support by Trustee Vosper to approve item 7D as submitted. Clerk Perry, please call the roll.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Vosper.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Domingue.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
No.
Treasurer LaFave.
Aye.
Supervisor Acrobati.
Abstain. Is that my vote, abstain?
Oh,
no.
Or excuse for abstaining.
Yes. Forgot that there. Yes.
Procedurally, did you just vote yes on a motion to abstain?
I voted yes on it. I was confused that, I was thinking in my head that I was abstaining, but I forgot Anderson went on.
Oh, it's unanimous.
Motion passes. Item 8 is the addendum.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Conning. Item 8 is addendum. There are no addendum. Item 9, public comments. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes. If everything works good, I'm going to have a handy dandy little. If everything works well, I have a handy dandy little stopwatch.
Joe Kadich, 117. Pass outs. I saw in the paper that you did the groundbreaking for the restoration, shoreline restoration at the park. And I live on the river, the Salt River, and you've opened up the paddle park. And when you get back to some things that you were obligated to do on the river besides the paddle park that haven't been done, we argued about 3 or 4 years ago and right along about getting rid of the phragmites on the river. You sprayed them a couple of years, everybody objected to that, and we talked about going in and cutting them, then we talked about burning them. But as you can see on the picture here, the phragmites, now this is just north of where the marsh is, and they go all the way around the river up to Callens, the bridge at Callens, and beyond Callens, you've got the phragmites on both sides of the river. Now, last time we talked, and we discussed this, you basically said that, well, nobody in the township really signed anything to take care of these, although you were adamant that you were going to spray them and everything else to get rid of them. So if you want this pedal park to succeed, you're going to have to do some maintenance. You're going to have to get in there and take out these phragmites. I don't know, we brought people in that showed how to cut them. Father and I suggested the machines you can buy. So that's one of the problems. The other problem, you can see all of the duckweed that forms on the covers of the whole river starting in July. It's not really, it's more a site thing than it is anything else. Something should be done to keep that clear. And when you get beyond the bend, beyond going way at the top of the picture there, the weeds in the river are so thick, you can hardly get a paddle in without getting weeds on it. And areas of it through are hard to get through. Trustee Vosberg went through a couple years ago and found out, and that was just when there was water lilies there. Now, I don't know what underwater weed is, but it looks like Christmas trees growing through there. There's going to have to be a lot of work done in this river if you wanted to succeed. I'll be happy to get with anybody and take them on the river if you wanted to send somebody else on show them what's out there. These phragmites, whether they're phragmites or not, basically have been coming loose and floating away from the marsh area. So I think they're, wherever the roots are, they're in silts. So maybe with just a boat and a little bit of pulling, you can get a lot of water and just get them out to shore. The other thing I wanted to talk about, when you had the meeting on the public safety tax setting, you had an open meeting, everybody asked questions. You said you'd answer the questions asked afterward. I never got my questions asked, so I'd like a response either now or you can talk to me, send me an email. But basically, I want to know how many patrol cars we have on the police beat around the clock. I wanted to compare it to what they were getting over in Macomb Township, where they have 6. And they use the sheriff's department for their 9/11 calls. They pay $5.4 million for that. They got 32 officers. The other thing, what article or what instrument or what Michigan law did you use to override the taxes that the voters had voted in? Specifically, we had fire, police, and fire equipment. Now, you use some kind of instrument to go over that and say we're going to combine these now, and you use the money as you see fit for the budget. And it also brings in the fact that you can raise the taxes by 2 mils. I'd like that information, just exactly what article and instrument did you use to bring that in. The other thing I'm going to say is we tried, when you were going through this sustainability study with Selfridge, to get some information out to the people that were in the flight area out of Selfridge, which goes directly over Chesterfield and returns over Chesterfield, because we were concerned about the noise from the F-35s. You never brought anything to bring to the public. If anybody was out last weekend, you heard what the F-35s sounded like.
Thank you.
I'm
all done. I put it up there, so thank you.
Can I get an extra couple
Thank you so much. Only if the board votes to suspend the rules. I'm sure they won't be there now. Any further public comment?
Michelle Merriweather. My first comment today is I've spent the last few days speaking with quite a few of our Chesterfield residents, most namely women. And what I want to bring to the board and also to our heads of public safety is there has been a lot of concern because a lot of the women are saying that they are being harassed when they go into Meijer and Walmart when it's starting to get into the dusk hours. They are inside of the Walmart and the Meijers. They are having situations where they are having men that are approaching them, asking them for money. Many of our women are concerned because they said that they've had to ask managers or employees to walk them out. They're afraid to go in their cars. And I personally can attest to it because I had a situation that happened in Meijers. Now, I'm a little different. He probably was scared of me. But I know for our women, a lot of them, they don't have the same type of, maybe the ability to do so. So they wanted me to address it specifically. And this was actually led by a resident, which I thank her. Her name is Kendall Briggs. And she said she made a police report about it, but what they're looking for now is a solution to it. The second piece is I received a lot of complaints in regard to a lot of the panhandling that's beginning to go on. At Interstate 94 and Speedway, I believe we have one that's right over there by Walmart entrance at Gratiot, and there is another one, I can't think where this other one is, but the case being is, I know that individuals have certain rights, but what is happening, they're beginning to approach the cars. And I watched it. I was out 2 days ago putting up some signs, and I watched the woman in Walmart over the Gratiot side, and she was just going up to every car, and people were complaining, saying, "Get away from my car." So I think people are becoming a little bit more aggressive. I do believe that our women especially, they should have a right that they feel comfortable to go into a store at night. They should feel comfortable enough that they're not going to have anything happen to them. So I wanted to bring that up. The next piece I wanted to bring up was in regard to the recent accident that happened. Quite a few of the citizens contacted me today and wanted me to ask the board, when there is construction taking place, are there any type of cameras or anything in the area that perhaps that can better like watch our construction workers to avoid certain situations or accidents and things like that? I don't know, I'm just bringing that forward. And then the next piece was in regard to, this is my last one, it had to do with the voting. I wanted to thank Clerk Berry because she did explain it. We did have a lot of questions, again, I got them, they came at me about the in-person early voting. So I do believe that there's going to be some PSAs going out, things like that. I had heard that from your staff, but I just wanted to make it, just to bring it to fourfold because they're very interested in it. So those are my three for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Township Board and Chesterfield Township residents. My name is John Spica. This election is about people over party. Elected officials need to lead by example. As residents, we need to demand excellence from our elected officials. We should never settle for okay in our elected officials. Each and every one of our elected officials are on a job performance review. We're in an election year. We the people have the power. This is our time to show our elected officials that we mean business and that the shenanigans that are going on in this township are going to stop. We have the power by our own individual vote to clean house and drain this township of all the wrongdoings and have a fresh new start. I ask the residents, should our elected board be re-elected for another term? Have they met their fiduciary duty to serve the residents? Have they done what they promised to do? Have they represented Chesterfield Township in an ethical manner? My personal opinion is no, no, and no. Clerk Berry, Supervisor Ecovetti, and Trustee Blossberg, in my opinion, don't deserve another term in this township. All three, including Dan's rubber stamp, Shadow's candidate, Elliott, are all working together to undermine the well-being of this township and the residents. Clerk Berry is working less than part-time hours and receiving a full-time salary of $88,628.41. Where on God's green earth would she ever find a job making that kind of money working part-time? She wouldn't, she knows it, and I know it. She will stop at nothing to try to get reelected again on the taxpayer's dime. Clerk Berry is consistently in violation of the board's food purchasing policy. On July 23rd, 2020, Council's legal opinion was that during the election training sessions, food reimbursement is not permissible under the board's purchasing policy. Clerk Berry continues to violate this policy among many other policies. Clerk Berry does not deserve to be reelected. Supervisor Ecovetti, our incompetent, ego-driven supervisor, needs to go. An ego-driven leader ignores holding subordinates accountable for their performance to define roles, responsibility, accountability, and potential risk in hopes that everyone will like it and help protect his image when there is failure. Supervisor Ecovetti claims to be integrity-driven. He is so integrity-driven that at the State of the Township on September 17th, Supervisor Ecovetti complimented Clerk Berry on what a great job she was doing in the clerk's office. Someone that's integrity-driven wouldn't lie to his key supporters, members of the chamber, and the residents about something that he knows not to be true. But Ecovetti did lie. In his little short of 4 years, Ecovetti has grown government at the township, made paths, parkways, and trash carts priority over maintenance projects totaling millions of dollars. Hundreds of Ecovetti's improvements before completion will be over budget and without an annual maintenance cost or plan. Under Ecovetti's watch, we had the cell tower on Forbes and Jefferson to deal with, which he and his group of three were in favor of. Fire Station 2 closed, the Fragmite spray and using Roundup, a cancer-causing spray, was used even after the residents raised concerns and their disapproval. Missing township board meeting tape, open and concealed carry about employees being able to carry a handgun to work. His inability to lead has left this township with no insurance coverage. If there's an unfortunate incident, that means if an employee brings a gun to work and shoots somebody, the taxpayers will be responsible to pay the bill. Residents, we have no insurance coverage. In any workplace that I know of, a decision like that would have gotten Accavetti immediately fired. Accavetti's judgment is flawed and he can't be trusted. Now that Accavetti got Paul Lafata out, he said, I'm very happy that we're not going to be working together next year. I disagree with everything you say. Does this sound like someone with integrity? Does this sound like someone that can lead this township for the next 4 years? No. Accavetti is running his shadows candidate, Elliott, a rubber stamp for the treasurer's seat. He wants an open checkbook, no checks, no balances, no questions asked. If you look at Elliott's filings with Macomb County Campaign Finance, they are a train wreck. Whiteout, late fees. How can you be a treasurer if you can't even file your reports on time or correctly? You can't. The treasurer's office requires someone to dig through the data, scrutinize it, look at costs, and weed out wasteful spending. This position requires someone strong, smart, independent, and not bought and paid for by Supervisor Accavetti. Someone that will stand up to the supervisor, weed out wasteful spending, and fight for the residents. And that candidate is John Spica. And I am not bought and paid for by anybody. Thank you, God bless, and good night.
Thank you. Any further board comment or public comment?
Terry Weston. I just got a quick comment or a problem that has been brought to my attention in my neighborhood. There's a lot of speeding going on in Stonehenge, and I really don't see too many police officers policing that up. And I was hoping maybe we could get some more police officers visiting Stonehenge Estates on a more regular basis, because they're flying through there and there's kids that still are playing out there, and it's a big concern. I've had to holler at a few of them myself, and I'm hoping that they could come down and police up that area a little bit. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Paul Manley, 48112 Fuller Road, Chesterfield. A lady named Rita came to me and asked me to bring this up. She's from the senior center, and she says the senior center is going to be renamed to Leisure Services, if that's correct, I don't know. And she wants to know what happens to the $60,000 that the aerobics class raised for their gym. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. And I got a couple things that I got in the mail. One thing I got in the mail, one thing I got in the email. This came in my mail about John Spica. And it says, John Spica can't be trusted. And then, can you speak into the microphone? I can't. I'm sorry. When it comes to honesty, John Spica can't pass the test. Unpaid debts, false statements, supports raising taxes. Seriously, you guys can't raise taxes even if you wanted to. But okay, supports raising taxes, and it's sent out by the Republican Party. I kind of went through one of these a couple years ago myself. It's nothing but absolute slander. I'm sure with John it's absolute slander. With me it sure was, because I didn't do half the stuff they claimed they did. Also, I got this email, and there's over 200 people that they sent the email out to. And I'll read it, but yeah, I got time. As all you know, I am passionate about building an addition to the senior citizen. In 2006, I was first donator to the fund. That was the year I lost my mother and donated in her memory. I started attending the board meetings shortly after that so seniors could have a voice. If I still live in Chesterfield, I would not be voting for a single incumbent because we certainly have no voice with this group. I would also like to point out that the clerk, Cindy Berry, does not come to her office most of the time, an ongoing problem. This is no secret, as one of the trustees took her to task at one of the meetings I attended. And she goes on to say, Annette, a lovely lady in our exercise group, has recommended John Spica for the position of treasurer. I am passing that recommendation along to you. And I bring this up tonight because it seems more and more like this is going down a super negative path. And I don't really think it's all that necessary to go negative, especially when we're able to tell people what we're able to do for them as people that are voted in to help them. And I, for one, will be voting for John Spica and also Wendy Smith. And she's gone through some really hard slams on Facebook and whatnot. And I understand that Mr. Joseph, he was slammed hard on Facebook and probably Twitter, I'm guessing. And man, this is just uncalled for. There's no reason to do that. People that do that stuff, it's just cowardly to not be able to come in front of the person and say what they have on their mind. That's just wrong. I know I went through it, and it just makes me ashamed to see anybody on the township board do that to anybody else. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Move up to the board. Trustee Domingo.
Okay, to start with the comment regarding leisure services. Leisure services is just the umbrella. You're still going to have a senior center. You're still going to have Parks and Rec. So it's just Amanda Bowers is the director over both, Mr. Manley. So you're still going to have a senior center. You still got Parks and Rec. It's just like an overall umbrella for it all. The funding, I'm not sure exactly where it goes, but the senior center's still going to be there. You know, we got this COVID stuff going on, and I understand. You can't ask me.
I understand.
Okay, so, but I'm just letting you know, it's senior service, leisure service, just the umbrella. You still got Parks and Rec division, and then you still got the senior center. So seniors are going to be taken care of. Ms. Weston, real quick, in fact, there's something I was going to say. The rest of the board, there'll be an agenda item coming up soon. I have had a discussion with Director Kirsten. It's been going on for a couple of months, and it's something that I've wanted for a couple of years. Over the years, we used to have a traffic safety group. McNair used to be in it, Robinson used to be in it. So I've been pushing for it. I talked with Director Kirsten, he's written it up. So it's going to be coming back to the board that we're going to ask for a traffic safety group. It'll be 2 guys that'll be assigned to traffic safety. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 1 marked car and then 1 slip top or semi-marked. Slip top, I'm sorry, just terminology in business. Mr. Anderson, you know what I'm talking about. So we'll be coming back to the board to put 2 guys into traffic and hiring 2 more officers. I think it's needed. Here's Ms. Weston brought up speeding. I don't know how you guys are. I get calls all the time from residents. Hey, I got cars flying through my neighborhood. I got people blowing stop signs. We got high accidents at XYZ Street. We got this unit, because other departments have it, will be designed to do that. Right accidents and traffic enforcement. They're not going to be out there. The road guys, you can ask them to do it now. We know they're busy. Trustee Joseph Anderson, the rest of, the guys are busy running calls and stuff like that. They get into an area and, they're running traffic, and then they got to go on a run for something else. This unit will be specifically for traffic enforcement. It's something that I've wanted for a year. The director and I had this conversation for a while. So the last couple of months, I've sort of pushed the issue. It's going to be coming as an agenda item soon. So hopefully the board will support it. Be 2 more guys on the PD, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Trustee Bosman.
Thank you. I'd like to bring attention that on Saturday, October 10, the Historical Society is going to have a rummage sale at the Historical Village. It'll be from 10 until 4. And then I would also like to address the issue about the Salt River. And the picture we were given actually was on a good day because it definitely is just along the shoreline. Some days it's actually over almost the whole thing. And I've been on there a few times this summer, and I would concur. It seems like there's more weeds in there than before. You really get a good upper body workout when you go through there. But it's been my experience, my understanding, not my experience so much, is understanding that the more there's activity on there, the fewer the weeds will grow up as there's more activity there. So I hope to see more activity, and then also more working with the DNR and whoever else is able to help us with those issues. And I did, one day I was there and I did see a little grassy island of Phragmite floating down the river. That happens a lot. I think that's a good idea, to just get in there and scoop it up and get rid of it. So thank you.
Trustee Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. If I could just try to address some of the comments we heard tonight. First, Mr. Kadich, I would have made the motion to extend. Public comments and ask that the board suspend the 5-minute rule. The difficulty now, unfortunately, is I know that your comments were about a specific issue, but we do have, we're 3-4 board meetings out from a general election, and it gets a little bit political. And I think it's unfair to, expand for one and not the other. Then we're monitoring content, and I didn't want to do that. I was real close to asking for some additional time, but that would have meant a suspension of the rules for all public speakers, and it just doesn't seem right to do that when clearly there are campaign-related speeches being made. So I did want to address a couple of the issues that you raised, was specifically on the patrol cars and how many of them are in the township. If you recall back many years ago when we paid for an outside consultant, one of the strong suggestions were that we take a look at the CAD data, the computer-aided dispatch system that we have in the township is state-of-the-art, and it can tell us when it's deployment schedules, if you will. So hotspots and areas and times when more cars are needed. So it's difficult, depending on what time of day you're asking, how many cars, what shift, what areas are they spending more time patrolling. I would encourage you to reach out to Director Kirsten, and he can put you in touch with one of his administrative team members who would be happy to go over that. You're a very well informed resident, and I think that you will be extremely pleased when you see the amount of data and thought that goes into the deployment schedule. It gets very tricky when you start comparing how many cars in this community to how many cars in another community. And I don't want to degrade the Sheriff's Department or make any unfair comparisons to what Macomb Township residents pay. I can tell you that their policing needs are dramatically different than our policing needs, and we've been through this a number of times. What they spend for their perfectly geographically square municipality is a lot different than a community like Chesterfield, which gets no mutual aid from the east unless it comes by way of boat. We have 6 miles of interstate that intersect our community that is uniquely positioned between 2 international crossings. You have the Blue Water, the Ambassador to our south. You have Gratiot and a bus system that intersects the community. You have difficulty getting east to west on the north end of the township because there's no overpass over 24 mile, over 94 at the 24 mile. So we have a number of very difficult policing challenges, and quite frankly, it costs money. It costs additional money to make sure that our residents are safe. So in terms of the comparison of patrol cars and the deployment maps, please reach out, or I'll be happy to do it for you if you'd like, and I'd be happy to sit down with you and explain what I gathered. In terms of the law that was used to override the approved village schedule, I know that you're talking about the formation of the Public Safety Department several years ago, and what we had at the time, for those who weren't paying attention to the township back then, as you point out, we had 2 millages in the fire department, one for equipment and one for operations. In essence, one to pay for that mobile toolbox that we voted on tonight, and one to pay for the staff operated. They were very restrictive in terms of how they could be used, and there was a very difficult review process and audit process to determine what funds could be used for what. And they were very, very, very strict. We found complete upside down imbalances in the fund, and we were unable to use equipment money for personnel, and we were looking at possible layoffs even though we had money in the bank on the equipment side of things. On the police side, we ran on a special assessment district, which was renewed yearly the way that we do now. We did not override the fire millages. What we did, under extensive research from legal counsel, is that we opted to enforce the millage rate. The levy gave us the ability to go to a certain number, so we could go up to a certain number in crafting the levy. We opted for 0. So although the millage was passed, it gave us a maximum amount, but it didn't say you must levy that amount. So we opted to levy 0, and that is what we're operating under now. So technically those millages are still available, but the board has opted to levy 0. There are no requirements regarding the minimum. And levying 0 then allowed us the ability to create a public safety department. And in those we combined the police and fire rescue and the medical response units under one public safety special assessment district. And that was done by vote of the board. We combined the 2 millages as well as the police SAD, and we rounded down. There was actually an initial tax savings at 8 mils. That was lowered to 7.95 in 2019, and as you know, just a few weeks back, we maintained the level of funding on the SAD at 7.95. So there was no override of any law to negate the millage. We simply just levied the minimum, which is 0. The information regarding the decibel levels of the F-35, there is some data in the most recent meeting that came out, and there are experts that disagree with the decibel reading levels. So it continues to be something that is debated and researched and will be part of the final sustainability study. There really is some I'm not a sound engineer, but there's some fantastic data there that is terribly conflicting given where you take the readings. So if I'm on top of the aircraft, I got something in the neighborhood of head exploding, and then if I'm a mile away, but am I a mile away with sight and sound, trees, vegetation, so forth. So there's a whole lot of things to consider, and when does a decibel level become hazardous really talks about exposure and proximity to the noise. So that is something that the technical work group is working on, and it will be part of the final sustainability study draft. Mr. Speaker, the issues that were raised are similar to the issues that you continue to raise, and I understand your concerns. I don't really know how to address any of those. You do a fine job on your own, so I'll leave it to you to work out. I think, Mr. Manley, your question regarding leisure services was addressed by Mr. Dominguez. He said that's an umbrella department of which the senior services operate alongside Parks and Rec under one director. But certainly those are 2 separate operations, and the needs of the seniors are addressed individually. They're not lumped in or forgotten about or diminished because they were combined with another group. They remain a separate entity under an umbrella department. The speaker on the Ms. Merriweather regarding the panhandlers is an issue that comes up quite a bit, and I respond almost daily on Facebook to the same kinds of complaints and concerns that you raised tonight. There is definitely an uptick in the aggressive nature of how individuals are asking for assistance. It has gone really in a real short amount of time to an individual that just sort of sits pathetically with his dog and a sign to people approaching what I think, and I think you would agree in your presentation tonight, it certainly sounded like we were on the same page, that almost a profiling of potential victims is what seems to be happening. Individuals who are maybe coming out of the store in a dimly lit parking lot that are paying attention to their car keys or their cart or anything else make themselves very vulnerable to these individuals who approach under I'm just looking for help, but it really seems more like they're being assessed for how big of a victim they may become. So it's something that is quite scary, and it's been reported to me as well. I've talked to Director Kirsten about strategies for enforcing the ordinance. Sometimes it gets a little tricky because individuals take up, they sort of camp out in a county easement, and the difficulty of enforcing ordinance is quite a challenge. But I think it's something that our police department is aware of, and it's certainly something that in talking with Trustee DeMink as he moves forward, trying to push with the Traffic Enforcement Division, something that has been presented to Director Kirsten as a current challenge for us, and something that we really need to pay attention to. Lastly, Ms. Weston spoke about the speeding. I live in that subdivision, and I know that the cut-through on Maurice becomes an autobahn at times. And I think with increased traffic, construction around the township, particularly on Gratiot, 23 Mile Road, whenever you see barrels and cones and things, you can bet that the subdivisions near those and the businesses near those experience motorists that cut through parking lots, they cut through subdivisions looking for ways to get wherever they're going and avoid the traffic. The difficulty is, of course, they continue the same rate of speed as if they were still on Gratiot or 23 Mile Road in the subdivision, and it becomes quite dangerous. So another area where I'm certain our police department is well aware. Lastly, I'd like to close with the other comment that Mr. Manley made with regard to the real ugliness of the campaign, and specifically on the piece that you addressed first involving Mr. Speaker. I saw that piece actually on the night of the primary. That was not a piece that was drafted contemporaneous with this election cycle. As I researched it, it was a piece that was sent out by the party involving a campaign that I think Mr. Speaker was involved with in another community at a state house race, I believe. Had nothing to do with Chesterfield Township, and so some of the issues that were raised in that piece obviously had nothing to do with raising taxes and things, as you pointed out, because it wasn't a targeted piece involving Chesterfield. On the whole, I would tend to agree with your assessment with regard to the ugliness. It continues, and I know you referenced Wendy Smith. I know you met Ms. Jones. I talked to her, and the attack on her family, her daughter in particular, is tragic. I mean, it's just absolutely disgusting. But one thing that this election cycle showed me last go-around, you think that you got to the bottom of the barrel, then you kick the barrel over, and you see that there's still room to go. There are some people that are just really vicious, just really, really nasty. As I said, throughout the primary, the campaign by our opponents was one title short of a Netflix series. Some of the current rumors and disgusting things going on make me think that maybe it's going into a Cinemax deal. So it's quite ugly all the way around. But I will tell you this: between the last board meeting and this board meeting, I received a call from Supervisor Accavetti. It was sincere. I won't go into the details of it, but I want to thank you for the call. It started out with a request to extend an olive branch. And anybody who's ever been in a civil war where your passions sort of take the better of you know that that is the toughest call to make. The call that says, I think we should go in a different direction. You have to be vulnerable to make that call, because you could have, I could have responded with a whole bunch of no way, and he took the chance, and I appreciate that. It was a very big thing to do. And the tone of the conversation wasn't that we would agree on everything and that we would just live our lives in complete harmony with no hiccups. But a commitment to do things a little more respectfully is always good. And then the other area that I appreciated the most, which was an opportunity to look at the things that we've accomplished in the last 4 years and what we, if we're given the opportunity to continue to serve, what we will do for the benefit of our township residents moving forward. Those seem to be things more positive to focus on. It's the reason that I ran. I think it's the reason that he ran. I certainly do not want to end the last few board meetings with divisiveness and leaving Treasurer LaFava to ponder whether or not coming out of retirement to run for treasurer was worthwhile. I don't want his final weeks and month or so on the board to be met with that. We've done some really impressive things. I'm very proud of some of the accomplishments that we've reached in spite of the discord. And so I would really like to focus on a couple of closing the loop on a couple of projects that this board set out to do, and focus on hopefully positive things to come. But it's not lost on me that that's not the feeling of everybody on this board. I am confident in my conversation with Supervisor Activetti. But Ms. Jones, you're on your own. You're going to have to buckle up because your opponent has zero problems. And let your family know. That's just the way it goes. That's just the way it is. Trustee Anderson and I have decided to focus on some issues that we think are important, that we've accomplished. We'll continue to talk about the positive things that we've done and would like to do. You will not see any negative anything from us on any candidate. I am very proud of the Republican friends who are running for re-election. I've also made some friends with individuals in the other party, and I have nothing negative to say really about anybody from a campaign perspective. So we will focus on positive things moving forward. And again, Mr. Supervisor, can't thank you enough for the phone call. It was very much appreciated, and I will do my best to hold true to the things that we discussed last week. Thank you.
Trustee Anderson.
Thank you. Moving on my no vote on the exclusionary motion regarding agenda item D. Not judgmental at all regarding the contractor. It's Palmer, I understand, is an outstanding contractor. But I look at it this way, is that we're up here representing the public. People have put us here. Certainly we should. I know there's provisions for conflict of interest in that, but as public officials, we should be taking a stand on all these items and weighing in on it. And I know sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable. Tonight might have been one of those, but that's now taken care of. The meeting started out, Supervisor Activetti was referenced one of our residents, graduate of Anchor Bay High School, lost in a senseless accident yesterday. My last remarks are, today being the first day of autumn, the days are getting shorter, the nights are getting longer, so please be careful when you're out there driving at night on our roads and on our streets. Watch out for the pedestrians, watch out for the bicyclists, be careful, bicyclists, be careful. Thank you.
Treasurer LaFava.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank my staff, Helen Clark, Jessica Ashley, Carrie Whitfield, and Elizabeth Damaris for their dedication. Last Friday, before the last day of taxes or fines, they were 8 to 10 deep at the treasurer's window all day long. Being dedicated, they weren't breaking for lunch when they should have, and lunch was provided at no cost to the township as a thank you to them. Second of all, I'd like to commend Trustee Anderson and Trustee Joseph for adhering to the township ordinance and not posting campaign signs more than 45 days prior to the election. That is a display of both integrity and ethics. The rest of my comments, I think, were covered by Mr. Joseph. I do have one answer for Mr. Kadish. Charter Township Act, Michigan Charter Township Act, gives a charter township the right to create an SAD, and either by vote or by board majority, they can ask for up to 10 mils in funding for a public safety department. But if you're asking for what law made that possible, it's the Charter Township Act. The other thing is, I know Mr. Cadis has complained about speeding on Sutton Road before, and has run into issues with it. It's a county road, and the county is the one that sets speed limits. So I'm not knowing if this is an issue, but could be speeding is happening. The rest of my comments, I'll wait till the next board meeting, because I'm kind of interested in the dedication to the Warwick Trail Park and what shakes out financially before I continue my comments on that, because we're pretty close to the end, and we're pretty close to being done. So I'll save this for the next board meeting. Thank you.
Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The Clerk's Department has taken a very proactive approach to trying to correct any misinformation that is being circulated on social media or even in the regular press regarding changes coming to the election, how elections are administered, how votes are counted, when they are counted, and so on and so forth. It's very discouraging for many clerks. I know it's very confusing for a lot of our voters and the public when it seems as if the courts and the legislature is changing the rules in the middle of the game. That makes it very difficult for us to continue to provide exceptional service when it comes to administering elections. But clerks are used to kind of rolling with the punches. We are often faced with challenges and changes at the last minute, crises on election day all the time. So, however, we know that a lot of the information is confusing. And what is happening with the advent of social media is that you have a lot of misinformation and a lot of confusion that runs rampant. And you have one person running with something, making an assumption based on limited information or based on incorrect information, and then all of a sudden you have a massive amount of individuals who have the wrong information. And we are taking a very proactive approach. We have changed our platform on our social media. We are being more proactive and progressive in the material that we're putting out and the content that we are putting out. We try every day. It seems every day there are new things that come out that are wrong, that people are misunderstanding, and we are doing our best to combat those. I'd like to thank Ms. Merriweather, who spoke earlier. She has really been tirelessly trying to combat the misinformation that she sees and trying to correct individuals, making sure people have the right information, and then going even the extra mile in contacting us to let us know that. And we appreciate that so much. As much as we try to monitor all of that information, it's very, very difficult because there are literally millions of sites and avenues where people are getting information from out there, and we just can't police them all. So thank you very much. If you have any questions or you see anything that is concerning on social media, please contact our office, myself, Deputy Clerk Niza, or Elections Coordinator Gomez. If you find any information that is confusing, is erroneous, please let us know that, and we now have someone who is dedicated to chasing down that information, correcting it, and we are trying our best to be proactive on our end. To that end, we are also going to be releasing a series of public service announcements with regards to not only how the process works, also allowing you to see on video how that process works here in Chesterfield Township, which will hopefully alleviate any additional concerns or questions. And then in addition to that, asking or allowing individuals to ask us questions in a forum as well. So we are trying everything that we can do from every medium, whether it be electronically on social media, through printed material, through phone calls. We are going to do our best to take a multi-sensory approach to disseminating as much accurate information as we can, and hopefully we will be able to clarify any concerns, any confusion, and any misinformation that's currently out there on social media. We know it's difficult. We know you're seeing and hearing a lot of things in the press that don't seem to make sense or that are seem to be changing the rules, and we're going to do our best to keep everyone updated as the Bureau of Elections comes out with any directives. We are also going to share those with you as well. So please bear with us, and we ask for your cooperation to contact us and alert us to any information that you may see that we need to be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the board answered most of those questions. I do want to focus on two of them, though, that I don't think could use a little deeper dive. One is the Salt River. There's no question that it's been an issue of mine for 20 years. You look at other watersheds, you go north to the Bell and the Pine, and you see what municipalities are doing with those watersheds. Columbus Township's got an amazing park setting on the Bell River, and continue to go downstream of the Bell River and utilizing those waterways. You move further north to the Pine, in St. Clair County, similar type uses of that waterway. You go to south of the Clinton River, what an amazing job they've done in Sterling Heights. And if you haven't seen, this was done with a millage, a very substantial investment in what they did at Dodge Park to that floodplain and that waterway. Now, this is all a little late to the game in Clinton Township, but the effort they've done to clean up that waterway is amazing. Then you look at the Salt River. Ends here in Chesterfield. Begins, it's a smaller watershed. It begins up by Richmond, goes through Lennox, New Haven, and a big chunk of it through Chesterfield. Zero investment ever. So a lot is happening on the Salt River watershed. Mr. Kadich, we were here for every one of those discussions, every one of those meetings. It truly is a we with this board, even though it's a little bumpy along the way, but it's a we. We focused on that Salt River, and we're going to continue to focus on that Salt River in a short period of time. First thing that got done was the bridge, with character as kind of a booking. Moving south of there, there's bigger discussions going on with planning on that marina district. However, moving north, we bring in the Salt River Marsh. This is an EPA project. This is a state-owned piece of land, and it has a tremendous amount of freight lanes. Zero progress until the last 4 years. That project is moving forward. However, it's owned by the state. The property is owned by the state. It's going to be funded by the EPA. We're well aware of it. Now the water level comes up, changes the game, kills these phragmites a little bit. No question there needs to be a long-term plan to manage those phragmites. Unfortunately, it's bigger than Chesterfield. That is a massive piece of acreage, a massive undertaking that we do not have the budget for. And we cannot do it without partners like the EPA and like the state of Michigan. So there's no question that's going to be done, and there's no question that's more's been done on that floodplain than has been in the history of our township. So then you move north from there, you get the Salt River Nature Center. Some of you have seen it, some of you have walked it. It is very kind of like a baby little project there, but you're seeing the path opened up. And again, a bunch of Salt River frontage that, yes, it's overgrown. Yes, there's trees falling in there. But you didn't necessarily see them before because it's not getting the use. Again, the progress getting made there. It's my vision to continue moving up that watershed. We have an opportunity to do something very special with the Salt River. The next piece would be the Salt River Golf Course. Trustee Joseph and I are both passionate about this. And this is one, when I did reach out to him, that I think there's a lane to preserve that golf course in some form as a recreational area. And it's a big lift. It's going to be bigger than us as well, so hence we're going to need partners. And it's going to take a whole lot of coordination. To move up from there, that Salt River connects right through one of our most amazing assets, which is Pollard Park, after it goes under 94 and under Washington, which is also going to be in line for another bridge in the relatively near future that is federally funded. Coupled with a non-motorized path plan that is working its way through planning and working its way through this system. That Salt River watershed has been a focus of this board. I'm proud of the progress we've made on just about everything. I'll take John Spica's comments. I look forward to where we were to where we are. I'm proud of everyone, but that Salt River frontage and the water, the stuff we've done on the waterfront, it's hard to say I'm proudest of which accomplishment this board has done I'm most proud of, but that one is way top of the list because we are preserving and protecting that watershed forever. Senior Center. As we move forward, I do know Rita very well. I do know that private funds for the vision of a senior center gym. There is no question that one of the problems, one of the obstacles in something that's holding Chesterfield back is a recreation center. We have outgrown our youth center. We are partnering again. These are big asks and big lifts without a Parks and Rec millage, which we do not have. So attempting to do this without the millages that other people have, and I think it can be done, you've got to get partnerships. So COVID hits. There's a lot going on with leisure services, parks and recreation, and senior center. Their programs are being expanded. There's a outdoor senior complex going in addition over there. There is no taking over the senior center. There is no pulling back on those programs. It's actually just the opposite. No single department was hit harder from a day-to-day operations than leisure services, and especially the senior population and the change that took. Now there's opportunity in the ashes, fortunately. We don't have a Macomb Township style recreation center. The fact that we don't have that might let us take a step back post-COVID and design the right recreation center in concert with that need, and that is a gymnasium for the seniors in a way that is affordable and that is adaptive to the new reality of the world that we live in. So those are two that I wanted to touch base on. Again, I would ask to keep your thoughts and prayers in the Morset family. What a heartbreaking accident and tragedy for our township. Our next board meeting is September 22nd. October 6th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by trustee Dominguez, supported by trustee Bosco to adjourn. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying nay. We are adjourned at 8:58 p.m.
You were mentioning Craig, right? My son, he works for the University of Georgia, and they did there don't grow like here because in Georgia it grows and they look more like they don't trees than they do weeds. Yeah, I know, but they found out the only way you can do poison it, they tried all kinds of poison, everything you can imagine. The only way you can do it is